G'day everyone, B Agent Dad here. Today we've got a bit of a different one. We're going to actually do the review for this Fujitsu LifeBook U9310X. Now this is an Ultrabook and it's a two-in one, which means it can flip its screen around and then transform into a tablet where you can actually just pull its nice, really cool Garage pen out and then take some notes or do some drawings. So it's really nice, and this weighs like nothing. Now, a lot of people who have followed my channel know I love the X1 Carbon, and this will beat the X1 Carbon. It's only just over a kilo. This is amazingly light, I've got to say. I'm pretty impressed by how light this is and the range of ports it's got, but we'll check on that a little bit later on. Now, I will be doing the line jitter test for this computer as well, and I will also be checking its temperatures and fan noise, and we'll also have a look at its features as well. So I will be putting timestamps along this video so you can actually skip to the section that you may be more interested in. And let's start off with what this computer can be configured with. Now, with the processor wise, it is using the 10th generation Intel core, and it can be either configured with an i5 or an i7, and of course both are 4 cores. As for RAM wise, it can go up to a maximum of 16 gigs of RAM. Now you do need to be careful with selecting the RAM because they are soldered to the system board, so you can't upgrade it later or change them. So you need to make sure you get the correct one when you actually purchase this computer. Now, as for the storage wise, it can house one slot of M.2 SSD, and as for the graphics wise, it's just using Intel integrated graphics, so nothing flash there. As for display wise, it is a full HD display. It is using IPS panels, and it is rated at 400 nits of brightness. Now, of course, it's been touched, of course, because it is a two-in-one, and also I have tested it. It does not use PWM. Fantastic. And the computer does come with the newest Wi-Fi 6 and also Bluetooth 5.1. And as for the webcam, this is one of the nice features of this computer. It does house a 1080p webcam. That's it, a full HD webcam. Finally, a manufacturer that's actually listened to all of us and have actually put in a full HD webcam. And it does also have, on the bottom down here, is a world-facing camera. So when you actually have this in tablet mode, and you can actually then take some photos or videos through that. Now that is a 5 megapixel camera there, and it will do you fine. This is a recording from the 1080p webcam, and this is the audio and video unedited, so you can see what the quality is like. Now, I've got two types of lights currently turned on, shining on me at the moment. I've got my studio light that's turned on at the moment, and also the downlights in this room for ambient light. Now, I'm going to turn off my studio lights off so you can actually see what it would look like with just my ambient light. And you will hopefully see that adjust, and that actually adjusts pretty quick, I've got to say. And this is at the moment, I've got two downlights in front of me. I've also got two downlights behind me. Now the two ones in front of me is quite far away, so this is kind of a bit of a dark situation at the moment, but this is kind of what you'll be like in an office environment. You probably get a little bit more light. Now I'm going to turn my studio light back on. Of course, you'll get better lights, we'll get better picture. Now, definitely love to hear what your thoughts are on this webcam here. And it's great to see Fujitsu have put a 1080p webcam as well. Let's have a look at the ports. Starting on the right hand side of the computer, we've got the security lock slot, and then we've got the RJ45 Ethernet port. I'd like to make a special mention about the RJ45 Ethernet port, and I think Fujitsu have found a very nice ingenious idea about keeping this very important port for commercial and business enterprises. And it's just a matter of just pulling this port out and then just slide it back out, and then you can just quickly lift it up, and there you go. You've got a full-size Ethernet port, and you can then just plug your Ethernet cable in there. Now, I don't see as any activity light for this, and it does keep this nice and thin still of the laptop, which is fantastic. But the one thing I do must say is this Ethernet port, it's a bit wobbly, so I would be very worried if this is used every day to connect it to. So I would advise to have a docking station if you're connecting the Ethernet port every day. But this would be a component that could be quite easily faulty after many use every day. So definitely I would be worried about it. But after that, you finish using, you can then just slip it back in, and there you go. What a fantastic idea. I'd love to hear your thoughts about this Ethernet port. Do you think you like it, or you think they can probably lose it? And then continuing on, we've got the USB 3.1 Gen 1 port. Now this is the Type A port, and then we've got the full-size SD card reader, and then we've got the power button, and on the very left we also have a tray for the micro SIM card as well, and then we have the garage pen. Looking on the left hand side, starting on the left, we've got the AC barrel style where you plug in the power adapter, and then we've got two Thunderbolt 3 ports, which is USB Type C ports, and then we got a HDMI port, which is version 1.4b, and then we have a USB 3.2 Gen 1, which is Type A port, and this does support anytime charge as well. And then we have the headphone jack, and then the optional smart card slot. As for the build construction, this is a fully magnesium construction here, and it is not too bad. It does a little bit of a twist there, and it is made to be rugged and durable because it does pass the military 810H tests, so that's fantastic to see. It doesn't really take that much sort of fingerprints on the palm side, but it's got comes in two really nice colors. Of course, this is the red one, and it also comes in black as well, so it's quite nice, I've got to say, and especially being how light it is, this is pretty sturdy there, I've got to admit. As for the keyboard, it's got a nice sort of tactile feel to it. It's not a really loud tactile feel. It's got a bit of a more of a spongy, soft feel to each keys, and for each texture of each keys, it's got a bit of a rough, yet also smooth, more smooth than rough, but there is a bit of texture there for each keys. And as for the spacing for each keys, it's quite nice. They've got a nice decent size. Now each key is quite small, so it's just to fit into the 13-inch sort of format, but they're quite small there. And also it is backlit as well, so it's just a matter of correction function and the spacebar, and you'll find that it actually go into 3 different settings, which is off, middle, and high for the backlight. And it's got to say, the top keys here are a little bit half size, what I call. I know HP do the same thing as well. I guess it's Fujitsu is doing the same thing, where it's half size, just to bring some of those function keys down. And as for each, quite durable, I've got to say. I've got to admit, this is quite durable keyboards. As for the trackpad, it's okay size. I wouldn't say it's great large or medium. It's probably more on the smaller side of things, and it's only because of this footprint of this laptop it's in. And it does have 2 mechanical buttons here for left and right click, which is great to see. And as for the texture of the trackpad, it's quite smooth, and it won't have any issues if you've got moist hands. That's good to see. And it does do gesture control as well, so multi-touch, fantastic there. Now as for the palm rest, it is again magnesium construction, so you can definitely feel that. And it doesn't, because of the size of this computer, which I can forgive, its palm rest, you'll probably be resting along, for me, just under where the wrist is, so I will be on the edge, so I really need to bring it up a little bit, but that's because of this footprint here. It's quite small, I've got to believe, but you probably will have to bring it yourself up or just start typing it out there. But it does have, on the right hand side down here, you can see there is also a fingerprint reader. There are 2 speakers located on the bottom front side of the computer, and when I tested out the speakers at its maximum volume, it managed to peak at 79.5 decibels. So for me, that's on a bit of on the quiet side, so you may actually struggle a little if you're in outdoors doing a presentation with this laptop. But if you're indoors and you're in a quiet area, that's fine. Now as for the sound quality, now this is probably not its strong point. I will probably say it's pretty average, and this is a business laptop, and it's pretty average, most business laptop, but this one is pretty average even compared to a lot of business laptops as well. As for the bass wise, it's not existent, and it's mostly in the mids and highs. There's not really much there neither, so it's really just purely relying on its mids. So definitely the sound speakers on this could be definitely improved in the next revision, later on. The computer does come with a 65 watt power adapter, and I've got to say it's quite slim and small. It's actually quite light as well. The 9310X does house a 50 watt hour battery, which is a 4-cell battery, and it does support rapid charge. And what that means is you can charge the battery from 0 to 80% in 1 hour's time. And I did perform the battery life test on this particular computer here, and with my battery life test, I do put a consistent load on the processor, RAM, and hard drive, and the discrete graphics if it's got one. And I do put the screen brightness to 100% as well when I do the battery life test. Now I tested it in the 4 different modes. In best performance mode, it managed to survive up to 1 hour and 30 minutes. And in better performance mode, it managed to get 1 hour and 45 minutes. And then I dropped the processing to 50% load and also the screen brightness to 50%. And in better battery life mode, it managed to get 3 hours and 40 minutes. And in battery saving mode, it managed to get 5 hours. And then I put it in my media test, which is basically connected to Wi-Fi and bringing the screen brightness to 50% and the speakers to 50% and pretty much streaming YouTube all the way through. And it managed to get 6 hours and 10 minutes. So the weight of the U9310X is 1.03 kilos, and add in the power adapter for it, it becomes a total weight of 1.39 kilos. As for the temperatures and fan noise of this computer, when I tested out this computer on load, I found most of the heat is located near the center of the keyboard, which is unsurprising because that's where the processor sits. It's around about where the Y key is and surrounding keys of air. Now the other area that you'll find that will get heated a fair bit is on the top right, where behind the hinge where the home keys are, and that's unsurprising because that's where the exhaust vents is. Now when I tested out the computer, my ambient temperature was 21 degrees Celsius, and I took my base measurement when the computer was on idle, and the hottest area on the keyboard measured in at 42 degrees Celsius, and the fan noise was 31 decibels, so that's pretty much just quiet. And then I'll put the computer on 20% load, so that's pretty much average use. So this is what you'll be doing for office productivity work, surfing the web, streaming videos, and the hottest area of the keyboard measured in at 44 degrees Celsius, and the fan noise went up a little bit to 32 decibels. Then I put the computer on 50% load, and the hottest area of the keyboard measured in at 47 degrees Celsius, and the fan noise hit a maximum of 33 decibels. And then I put the computer on 100% load, and the hottest area on the keyboard was 53 degrees Celsius, and the fan noise stayed at a maximum of 33 decibels. I also measured the back cover of the computer when the computer was on 100% load, and the hottest area measured in at 55 degrees Celsius, and the fan noise of course stayed at 33 decibels. I also measured the computer when it was in tablet mode with 100% load, and on the display screen side, the hottest area measured in at 44.5 degrees Celsius, and the fan noise of course stayed at 33 decibels. And I also measured the keyboard side when it was on 100% load in tablet mode, and the hottest area measured in at 51 degrees Celsius, and the fan noise was still at 33 decibels. So you can see this computer is running quite hot even at idle, and the fan doesn't really spin up much at all, so it's actually quite a quiet computer. But I do wish that it can actually bring up the fan quite a bit just to get a little bit more performance and actually expel some of this heat, because it's actually quite a hot computer, even just to hold it in a 2-in-1. When you're actually in a 2-in-1 mode, if you're not doing too much processing and just writing words and stuff like that, it's all fine there. But if you're really holding, and you're, especially with that exhaust vents on where it's sitting on the side here, you actually find it actually gets quite heated up. Even when it's not doing too much, it's actually quite warm as well too. Let's have a look at the stability performance of the processor, as well as checking for if there is any thermal throttling. Now this 9310X is configured with an i7-10610U processor with a base clock speed of 1.8 gigahertz. Now this computer has been running on 100% load for the last hour and a half, and I've got the processor, RAM and hard drive running at 100%, and we've pretty much got a stability performance of 2.4 to about 2.6 gigahertz. So that's pretty much stable there, so which means it's above the 1.8 gigahertz, which means it doesn't have any thermal throttling, but it does have a fair bit of turbo throttling there. Let's see how the processor is able to maintain a high clock speed for. So I've got a stopwatch here first, and then I'm just going to start the process now, and we'll just see, and I'll stop the clock once it goes below a certain amount. We'll just start that off. So at the moment we can see it's now running at 3.2 gigahertz, 3.3, 3.4 gigahertz. It's ramping itself up to about 3.4 gigahertz, and it's just going to about 3.4. If it drops below 3 is when I'll probably be looking at stopping the clock. So it's just gone to about 3.1, 3.3 again, 3.4, stuck at 3.2, and 3.2 still. And I'm still at 3.2, 3.10, and there we go. So we're looking at sustained around about for about 37 seconds. Located on the bottom right hand corner of the laptop is the Garage pen. Now it's just made a little flick of it, and then you can just pull it out. Now the pen is garaged in, and it will recharge the battery of the pen when it's actually garaged into the laptop or docked into the laptop. Now there is a one button here on the side, and overall I just find this pen quite thin, but it does use the Wacom AES technology for the Webcam, so it's actually got very nice, and it's actually got a little bit of a push here on the tip, which is fantastic, so you can actually do some nice good pressure, which we'll test a little bit later. And as you can see, they've also got a nice little lanyard hole here, so you can actually tie it to the laptop so you don't actually lose this when you're riding away. So definitely great for public spaces or even just public computers. So that's a really nice little feature of it. Let's do the line of jitter test. Now I'm going to start doing one palm on the screen and just do my slow diagonal lines. Now I am not a digital artist in any form. I'm not really that great at drawing, so I'm doing my best to do these straight diagonal lines for you. Definitely love to know what your thoughts are on this for those who know about this test. Now I'm also going to bring in a microfiber cloth here to simulate the people who do use a glove for the digital artist. And again, I'm just going to try and do the lines here. It seems to have about the same to a little bit more effect if I'm using a glove. Alright, and I'm just going to do some quick lines of just so you can see what it looks like. And I'm also going to bring in a ruler. I'm going to firstly put only one palm on the screen and then just do the lines. Right, now I'm going to introduce my second hand here as well. So I've got two fingers and my palm. So it's about the same here. As well, so that's not too bad. And I'm going to just do some horizontal lines so you can see. And also going to do the swirl. Trying to keep it even. Alright, that's kind of what it looks like. And now I'm just going to show you the pressure sensitive part of this. So I'm going to go light, heavy, light, heavy, light, heavy, light, heavy. And now I'll just do some handwriting so you can see what it looks like. As for display wise, it is a 16:9 ratio, and there is a bit of a bezel, but this is quite normal for a lot of 2-in-1s because quite simply when you're actually in the tablet mode, you do need to have a little bit of bezel along the top and bottom, so because you do end up over grabbing a lot of the times. Therefore, when you're in tablet mode, just right away, so it will activate there. So that's why the top and bottom usually have a bit of a bezel. Now on the side, it's not too bad. It's not like the Infinity Edge that like the XPSs or Lenovo's have got. So it is have a little bit of bezel on the side. While we're in tablet mode, I might as well talk about one of the things that I don't really like about this laptop, and that's where the exhaust vent is. And that's because I'm a right-hander here, and I do write with my right hand, and pretty much where the exhaust vent is sitting going to be where if I'm going to do some writing, I'll actually grab it like this, and this is where the exhaust vents are located down here. So my hand, and I can really straight away feel it already, that my hand can actually feel the heat when it's grabbed onto there, my fingers there, and it starts to get a little bit uncomfortable if I'm going to do a little bit of work down there. And it's no better if I'm going to flip this around, because after that it's going to be on my forearm, and it's actually quite hot now at the moment, so I don't really want to touch on my forearm here when I'm writing or doing something. So this is a little personal thing. I don't really like having the exhaust vents sitting behind where the hinge area is. I prefer actually sitting on the side, but I definitely know there is no room for that. But this is something I think manufacturers would be nice to think about when this is in tablet mode. Testing out the color gamut coverage of the display. It measured in at 93.2% sRGB, 64.3% Adobe RGB, and 66.4% DCI-P3. Let's test out the luminance or the brightness of the display. Now this is the full HD IPS version, and it is rated to 400 nits of brightness. So I'm using my X-Rite i1 display tool to actually help me with the measurements, and the measurement that we need to take note of is this one here called current. It is measured in caliber per square meters, or 1 caliber per square meter equals 1 nit of brightness. Now this screen is rated to be 400 nits of brightness, so it has to reach around about 400 or above. So I'm just going to put it at its maximum brightness, and we're hitting at 334 caliber per square meter, which means it is very far away from the 400 caliber per square meter that's on the spec sheet itself. So I've actually double and triple checked this to make sure it's not actually hitting the 400 that it's meant to be rated at. I've actually recalibrated a few times, and it is all comes down to about same here, which is around about 334 to 335 caliber per square meter. So it's not hitting the 400, which is, and I've got the power currently plugged in at the moment, so I've got that plugged in just to show you to you at the moment, just to make sure it is at its maximum brightness setting, and I've got also the performance mode currently set as well. So I'm going to also help while we're at it. Well, might as well just help the photographers and videographers who are actually going to be using this as well. We're going to look at that magical 100 to 120 caliber per square meter, which is the rated, and I'm just going to use this through the, we'll go down to 5 increments, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, so that's halfway, and we're currently sitting at 130, which is a bit too hot, so I'm going to dial it down to off the thing. So 50, we'll go down to 45, 48, and we're currently sitting at 123, so we'll dial it down one more. So at 47 we're hitting 121, and we'll dial it down one more, which is 46 value, and you're looking at 116, which is probably where you want to sit at, or all the way down to, we're going to try and find at 100, which is 41. So value of 41 will get you 102 caliber per square meter. If we go to 40, we're going to be dropping down to 99, which is about all right as well too, if you're looking at doing it at 100 caliber per square meter. Now if you find this useful, smack that like button just to give me support for this channel as well. The display has now been color calibrated using the X-Rite i1 display colorimeter, and we're going to actually have a look at what it looks like out of factory, which is what it looks like right now, and after calibration. So I can definitely see that it's actually gone a lot more warmer. So out of factory, after calibration. So I firstly can see it's gone a lot more warmer, And I'm just going to go down to Pascal here. So out of factory, after calibration. Definitely it's got more warmer there. And as for the greens, it's not really gone more green. It's probably actually gone a little tad more magenta, only by a very little, but it's mostly more of a more warmer. So I'm just going to do colored. So this is out of factory and after calibration. Out of factory, after calibration. So definitely it's out of factory is a little bit cooler. And this is black and white, so this is black and white high key. So out of factory, after calibration. And I'll just do mid-tone, so out of factory in black and white, after calibration. I did perform the benchmarks for this particular 9310X, and this one's configured with an i7-10610U processor with 16 gigs of RAM and 250 gig hard drive SSD. And I'll put up the scores for the Passmark, Citybench R15 and R20, Geekbench, Crystal Disk Mark, and Spec View Pref. I like to make a comment on the disk scores. Now you probably see that it's actually quite low, especially on the right side of the disk. Now I did test this thing multiple times to double check me and triple check me if it was right, but somehow the disk write scores of this computer here is actually quite low. I think Fujitsu needs to either have a look at it or maybe bring out a firmware update for this. I did update all the firmware, but we just could not get this thing be pushed any more further. And as for process wise, it's probably a little bit slower on the other side as well. I think Fujitsu would be nice if they can actually bring up the fan noise up just so we can actually expel some of this heat, because it's getting a bit low end on there. But else, this is quite a good computer. If you just ignore sort of some of the performance, this is a fantastic computer because it's very, very light, and it's all the range of ports it has is great. So functionality wise, this is great. If you're looking for more of a performance of computer, this is probably a little bit lacking on times of there, but this one has all the features, fantastic in that size here, and just fantastic just to travel with as well. If you find this video informative or enjoyed it, or even just to support my channel, smack that like button for me. And if you haven't done already, subscribe to my channel by hitting that subscribe button on the screen. I do try to upload a new video every week. And just remember, imperfections in life makes it beautiful and interesting. I'll see you next video.